Welcome back to my channel, guys. Next in food. Today I want to share with you how to make stew peas. Stew peas is a beloved dish in Jamaica. It is a dish that takes a little while to prepare. So just like anything that is stewed, the process is slow and long. So what I want to show you today, some of the do's and the don'ts of preparing stew peas to make sure you have a tasty dish at the end. So one of the trick, which is a do that I like to imply, is to soak the peas. Now in here I have two types of peas. I have, Jamaicans are the only person who refer to beans as peas. So I have some red kidney beans in here, and then we have another variety that we refer to as round red. So they're a little bit smaller. So I like to do what I call the quick soaking method. And I just bring the dried peas up to a boil with 4 cups of water, and then I turn it off and let it stand in the hot liquid for about 30 minutes. So that is a quick way. Another thing I like to do when I'm making the stew peas is to actually start sauteing the aromatic vegetables, I like to call it. So in my pot here, I am adding some butter. And this, if you don't have butter, you can use margarine or a little oil. The purpose of the butter is add some flavor, some extra flavor, and I'm going to use it to saute my onions. So I like to use a large onion, and I just rough chop it. Now when you're cooking, if you put flavor in, you'll get flavors out. So I like to start building the flavors. So I put the onions in some fat, which is my butter, and I'm sauteing, or I'm sweating the onions. So to sweat means to cook slowly, and it means to release its natural flavor. So I want to give the onions a head start by doing just that. You see they start to turn nice and shine and almost translucent. This is how we extract flavors from the onion. All right. I also like to add garlic. I'm using 4 large cloves of garlic, and I just rough chop them. Garlic is smaller than onion, and just like onion, garlic is sweet, but because it is smaller, I like to add the onions in first and then add the garlic so that it doesn't burn, because burnt garlic can be a little bit bitter. Okay, so these are my do's. I want you to saute the onions or sweat the onions lightly with the garlic in a little bit of fat, like I'm doing here. All right, and so I wish you could smell this. This smells nice and aromatic, and that is the effect of sweating the onions and the garlic first. Right away, you're getting a big, bold flavor out. Now, my other little trick is to add half of my pimento now, and I like to use ground pimento. And what that means is you put it in a little coffee grinder and just ground it into a powder. That way you don't have to fish them out at the end. And pimento is a spice, it's fat soluble, so right away we put it in the fat and it just releases a beautiful aroma. So now it's time to add our soaked beans, and just carefully add it in. I find soaking the beans ahead of time really speeds up the cooking process. This step is totally optional. I'm just sharing with you how I prepare stew peas for my family. So after that, we're gonna go to the star. Now, when you're making stew peas, it is very important that you use something that is salty. And today I'm using pork only because we love pork. I'm using pigtail that was salted, and I'm using pork hock that was also salted. Just going to lower those in. This is what the pork hock looks like. It's bigger than the pigtail. Now, even though it is salted, it's very important that you soak them. So what I do when I'm making stew peas, I soak the pigtail and the pork hock overnight, and then I blanch them. What that means is I bring it up to a boil just to take off any strong flavor that it might have So that's what blanching is in this case of blanching meat. Now finally, there's some other stuff that we need for stew peas. So we're going to, this actually needs a little bit more water. I'm just gonna add some more water to cover the meat. All right, we want to totally cover it. I think that's good enough. So you will need some flour for your stew peas, and we use the flour to make what we call in Jamaica spinners. They're little dumplings. So let me show you how that is done. So I'm just adding some salt, and I like to use a spoon to do this. This is 1 cup of flour, so it's just like making a dumpling dough, and then we add some water a little bit at a time because we're making a dough. You can use your hands, but I like to use a spoon because it's just a small amount to help to form it into a dough. I prefer to do this early and just put it aside. So this is what we do. You see it's coming together. All right, now if you're unsure, use your hands, but I've done this so many times I can feel the resistance on the spoon, and I can tell if I need more liquid or not. So I think I'm good. So this is our dough. When we're seasoning the stew peas, I'm going to make them into little dumplings, aka spinners, and show you how that is done when we're seasoning. All right, so let's look at the seasoning for stew peas. You need a lovely Scotch bonnet pepper. Please take note of the Scotch bonnet pepper. It has a particular shape, and it is said to shape like the hat that the Scottish wear. It's called the Scotch bonnet. So it's round at the top and then it tapered down. We need fresh scallions. I like to chop the scallions up because I don't want to have to fish them out. And then we also need thyme. Fresh or dried thyme is good. So these are our seasoning. And then of course, another seasoning component is coconut milk. So this is freshly squeezed coconut milk. And this is going to be added when we're adding the scallion and the thyme and the little dumplings. So I will see you back here in, this is going to take like 40 minutes, or we just cook it until the pork hock and the peas and everything is tender. I'll show you what it looked like halfway through. Soon come back. Okay guys, so the stew peas has been simmering for 40 minutes or so. All I'm doing now is adding the little dumplings, aka spinners. This is how you make them. You put a small dough ball in your hand and you just roll it. Roll your hands back and forth until it forms a little log. So I'm making mine long. You can make them as long as you want or as short as you like. So just go in with a fork, and I'm testing the tenderness of the meat. They're almost tender, so now is a good time to add the remaining ingredients. Now I'm going to add the seasonings in, and again you want to add the flavor in that you desire at the end. And my tip is to chop the scallions. This is a coconut milk. Add the coconut milk in. See how creamy that is? And just mix everything up. And this is gonna continue cooking for another 30 minutes. At that point, all the flavors will be combined. I'm gonna add the remainder of our pimento. I like a lot of pimento in it, so you can add as much as you like or as little as you want. And you see what happened in the cooking process? The meat takes on the color of the peas, which is good. It's a good sign that everything is cooking together. So another don't of the stew peas, you don't want to add too much raw flour to it for it to be very floury tasting. Adding a flour slurry to the stew peas to thicken it is allowed, but just in moderation. So we're going to continue to cook this, and then when I come back, if we need to add a flour slurry, I'll show you how that is done and we will add it. All right, but our final do's, you want to add lots of fresh scallion and fresh thyme, a good Scotch bonnet pepper, and of course saute the onions at the beginning. You also want to make sure that you soak your meat overnight and blanch it off, just to make sure that you control the salt in the stew peas, because remember, you can always add salt in, but you can't take it out. We'll come back in 30 minutes, and in 30 minutes time we are going to try this delicious stew peas. I soon come back. All right guys, so our stew peas dinner is finally ready. It looks a little bit loose. So at this point, you can add a little flour slurry to tighten up everything, not too much. All right, I just want to remove the thyme branches. Okay, so I have some flour slurry here. A flour slurry is water and flour mixed together. This is approximately 2 tablespoons of flour mixed with half cup of water. I'm not going to add all of it, so pour half of it in, and you see what happens? It just tightens up the stew peas. All right, so another don't when you're making stew peas is not to cook the meat and the peas separate. When you cook the meat and the peas in 2 different pots, you won't have this nice rosy, almost burgundy red color of the meat. It's very important to not cook it separate. When you do, you can tell, because your meat will have a white looking color, and you know, we don't really like that very much. So your final do's of making stew peas, you want to pack it with a lot of flavor from the beginning, and if at the end it is a little bit loose, you can either puree some of the peas, take it out, puree it and put it back, or you can just add a little bit of flour slurry like I just did to tighten it up. Our stew peas is ready, so I like to have mine with a little salad and some plain white rice. So I'm just gonna plate it up for you to see what it looks like. We love lots and lots of meat. You wanna make sure you get a little meat and a little bit of the dumplings. Isn't that pretty? This is what it looks like. I do hope you enjoy this recipe. Try making some stew peas today, and remember, you must soak your salted pigtail. If you're not a pork eater, you could use beef. You could use salted beef. If you cannot find salted beef where you are, you could use fresh beef, but you have to season it and then saute it in the step where we saute the onions. All right, enjoy. Remember to subscribe if you have not done so. Comment down below, I'd love to hear from you, and share this video. Share this video, let me know what you think. Stew peas is getting a moment, and this is actually my all-time favorite food. I do hope you enjoy this video and find it very informative. I am your Diva Chef, Simone Walker Barrett. Do take care.